The most powerful gods of ancient Rome. Top 5. They held the sky, war, death, and love in their hands. The gods of ancient Rome were not just myths. They ruled an empire that conquered half the world. But who was the most powerful of them? Who stood above the others? Who was feared even by emperors? And whose names are engraved in the stone of centuries? In this video, you will see the top 5 most powerful gods of the Roman pantheon. And I promise, you will be surprised who got on the list and who disappeared from history. Watch carefully. Myths are waiting for you that will turn the idea of ancient power upside down. And if you, like me, are looking for the truth in the shadows of history, click subscribe so as not to miss new discoveries. And now, let's move into the era where the gods decided fate. 5. Minerva. In a world where wars decided the fate of empires and the sword was the voice of truth, the greatest power is not muscle, it is the mind. That is why Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, strategy, crafts, and laws, became one of the most revered figures in the Roman pantheon. Her appearance is shrouded in deep symbolism, born not of the body, but of the mind. According to legend, Jupiter swallowed Metis, the goddess of wisdom, when he learned that her child would surpass her father. But Metis did not disappear. She continued to live in Jupiter's head, and eventually Minerva was born directly from his forehead in full battle armor. This myth is not just about the emergence of a deity. It is a manifesto. True power begins with thought. Minerva is not accompanied by madness and chaos. She is the silence before battle, logic in chaos, strategy in the heart of war. She is the patroness of generals who win not by numbers, but by plan. In ancient Rome, no political or military leader began a business without praying to Minerva. Without her approval, her attributes are an owl as a symbol of all-seeing intelligence, a spear and a shield, sometimes with the head of a gorgon, which even the gods did not dare to look into the eyes. This is the embodiment of the idea that wisdom is not weakness, but a weapon that pierces any walls. Temples of Minerva were built on the highest points of cities. They seemed to watch everything that was happening below them, like the goddess herself. Her most famous sanctuary was the temple on the Aventini Hill, where poets, philosophers, artisans, and military leaders gathered. They came not to pray, but to listen. Because Minerva does not give answers, she whispers the direction of thought. But her power is not only in ideas. In the Roman tradition, Minerva is also identified with war, but not wild and destructive, like Mars, but deliberate, fair, thought out to the smallest detail. This is not chaos. This is a chess game in which every move is fate. She has always kept aloof from emotions, cold, like hardened steel, pure, like the light of a torch in the darkness. Minerva embodies that type of power that is not visible, but which changes everything. She was not feared, she was respected. She was not begged for forgiveness, she was asked for advice. She is the mind of Rome. Her gaze is oriented towards eternity. It is thanks to her that Rome not only conquered, but also ruled, for the empire is not only a sword, it is a code. Architecture, law, an idea. And each of these things is a child of Minerva. Her cult did not disappear with the fall of the empire. It was transformed into the image of Sophia, the wisdom of God in Christianity, and her spirit continued to live in universities, libraries, in every act of meaningful action. Minerva is proof that the highest power is in the silence of thought. And while people seek the sword, reason paves the way to immortality. For Apollo, Apollo is a god who cannot be described in one word. He is music and prophecy, beauty and harmony, punishment and salvation. In ancient Rome, his cult filled temples, hearts and prophecies, because Apollo carried the light that not only illuminates, but also makes you see the truth. His origin dates back to the Greek tradition, where he was the son of Zeus and Leto. But in Rome, he became something more than just a transferred deity. Here Apollo turned into a symbol of the ideal balance between body, spirit, and word. In his image, the Romans saw the personification of order amidst chaos, clarity amidst darkness. In his hand, he held a lyre, an instrument with which he tamed even wars, but his other hand with a bow, capable of bringing illness or destruction with just one shot. This made him extremely dangerous as an ideal mind, capable not only of healing, but also of punishing mercilessly. Roman emperors, especially Octavian Augustus, idolized Apollo. It was Augustus who declared himself the favorite of this god. Having built the temple of Apollo on the Palatine, he saw in it a symbol of his power, controlled, illuminated, cleansed of barbarism. It was Apollo who became the god under whose gaze the Romans sought truth. But Apollo is not only a cult of beauty and strength. He is the master of the Delphic oracle. In Rome, prophecies played a key role. No one went to war, did not pass laws, did not build a temple, did not address the people, without signs and portents. And all these signs converged in one name, Apollo. Through the oracles, he spoke words that decided the future. In his rays, everything made sense. Apollo taught that beauty is not an empty admiration for form, but a reflection of inner order. That harmony is the path to survival. He was the god of medicine through his son Asclepius, but he himself healed when his heart was inclined to mercy. His punishment was terrible. He sent a plague on the Greek army at Troy when they insulted the priest dedicated to him. But his forgiveness came quietly, like the sun rising again after a storm. Apollo did not demand sacrifices like others. He demanded purity, purity of body, thought, heart. Therefore, the Roman priests of Apollo were carriers not of power, but of knowledge. They did not carry weapons, only words. And these words could save an entire nation. In mosaics, he is always depicted as young, immortally beautiful, but the look in his eyes was always disturbing. For the one who sees everything, both the future and the heart of every person, does not smile just like that. Apollo is a light that does not warm, but tests. And only he who can withstand its brightness can say, I saw the truth and remained alive. 3. Neptune. At a time when Rome fought with the sword, traded in gold, and built stone roads. The real key to the power of the empire was hidden in one word: the sea, trade, colonies, wars, conquests. All this depended on the whims of the elements, over which no emperor had power. And that is why Neptune, the god of the sea, occupied a special, almost sacred place in the Roman pantheon. Neptune is not a gentle shepherd of the waves, not a romantic traveler of the waters. He is thunder in the storm, a trident in the whirlpool, a fury that awakens without warning. His power lies in unpredictability, although his origin goes back to the Greek Poseidon. In Rome, Neptune became the personification not just of the oceans, but of global control. His cult began to be actively developed at the moment when Rome turned into a maritime power. The victory over Carthage, the creation of a fleet, and control of the Mediterranean Sea were all accompanied by the growth of Neptune's cult. On the day of Neptunalia, a festival in his honor, the Romans built temporary huts of branches as a symbol of the transience of human constructions before the eternity of water. It was a reminder that even the strongest walls are destroyed by the wave. Neptune held a trident, a symbol of 3 levels of power: over the water, the underwater world, and those who try to cross it. His servants are hippocampi, sea monsters, nymphs who sang in waterfalls, and storm spirits who could sink entire flotillas. His temples are rare but majestic. One of the most famous is the Temple of Neptune in Rome, near the Forum, decorated with bas-reliefs with naval battles. In such places, they did not pray for love or health. Here they prayed for the mercy of the elements, for the protection of ships, for the harvest that was to come from across the seas. But Neptune is not only about the sea. In the Roman understanding, he is also the lord of horses and earthquakes. Yes, he was considered the patron saint of horses, because the horse is an animal that, like water, requires respect and control. This makes Neptune two-faced. On the one hand, a storm; on the other, a triumphal procession through the city after victory. When Rome was faced with a naval battle, sacrifices were not made to Mars, but to Neptune, for in times of military glory, every trireme, every sailing ship, every legion depended not on steel, but on the wave. And if it disobeyed, you were nothing. His anger was devastating. Octavian's fleet could not go to sea. Storms raged for a week. The emperor took this not as a coincidence, but as Neptune's refusal. Only after a 3-day fast and sacrifices did the sea calm down. In the minds of the Romans, Neptune became not just a god, but a reminder: no empire is eternal if it does not honor the power that cannot be kept in a cage. He is not a temple or a statue. He is an element that hears your words and at the same moment can wash them away. And that is why the Romans whispered prayers to him not in temples, but before stepping onto the ship's gangway. Because everyone who entered Neptune's domain had to remember, he does not like uninvited guests. To Pluto. In the days when Rome built magnificent forums, conquered nations, and celebrated victories, every citizen, from emperor to slave, knew all this is transient, for in the end, all roads lead to the kingdom of Pluto, and if other gods promised glory, love, power, or wealth, Pluto gave what no one could avoid: the end. But this end was not a collapse. In the Roman imagination, it was a transition to the oldest and most unshakable order, the order of the underworld. Pluto, known to the Greeks as Hades, was not a demon or the personification of evil. In Roman tradition, he did not punish the soul, he guarded the balance. His power was an irreversibility. Where other gods threw lightning, Pluto was silent, but it was his silence that was more terrible than the cry of war. His kingdom is not hell, but Regnum Umbrarum, the kingdom of shadows. It is a place where time stands still, where judgment is unhurried, where souls meet their truth. There River Styx does not forgive lies, and dogs named Orcus and Cerberus guard the border between life and what is after it. His wife, Persephone, or Proserpine, is a symbol of the cycle of life and death. Her abduction by Pluto is not just a myth, but an archetypal drama about how light descends into darkness to transform it into a new spring. The Romans saw this as a reflection of their own existence. Death is not the end, but part of the order. Pluto was not a popular god among the common people. They did not put statues at crossroads, did not dedicate holidays in circuses. Their name was almost never spoken aloud, out of respect and fear. But it was he who preserved what was most important in Rome, the law of eternity. His possessions included not only the souls of the dead, but also the bowels of the earth. That is why he is the patron of treasures, gold, silver, minerals hidden in the depths. Pluto rules not over what is on the surface, but over what is real, what lies beneath the foundation of everything. Even the word Plutos in Greek means wealth. Emperors, being mortal, did not disdain Pluto. They offered sacrifices to him before campaigns, before construction, before new laws. For they knew, you can conquer the world, but if you do not honor the one who rules it in shadows, everything will fall. His temples were few, but their location is always symbolic. The famous Pluto portal in Hierapolis, at the entrance to the underground caves, was a place where life stopped. Animals that entered it fell dead. But the priests of Pluto, the initiates, could pass unharmed. This gave rise to rumors, fear, legends, but most importantly, respect. In mythology, Pluto does not judge, but it is at his command that souls pass through Lethe, the river of oblivion or Elysium paradise. His decisions are not subject to appeal, because he is not an emotion. He is the structure of fate itself. Pluto is not the end. It is the roots, where others see death. He sees the immutable law of the world. He does not speak out loud. He does not walk accompanied by muses. But when the moment comes, only he decides what will happen next. Jupiter. Above every battle, over every oath, over every law of Rome stood one name: Jupiter, the greatest of the gods. He did not just control thunder, he controlled the very logic of the universe. If Pluto personified the inevitable, Apollo, harmony, and Minerva, reason, then Jupiter was the personification of power in its original form, celestial, absolute, beyond the control of people. His throne is in the heavens. His gaze is on the heights of the empire. He is the father of the gods, but not by blood, but by right. In the Greek pantheon, it was Zeus. But in Rome, Jupiter became much more than a mythological hero. He became a state institution. His temple on Capitoline Hill is not just a sanctuary, but the heart of political life. Their senators took oaths. Their trophies of victories were brought. There the fate of the Roman Republic and Empire was decided. Jupiter was the guarantor of treaties, oaths, laws, wars, and peace. His name was invoked at the moment of greatest risk. Soldiers prayed to him before battle, politicians before a speech, judges before a sentence. Jupiter was the one who listened and answered not with words, but with thunder. He held a lightning bolt in his hands, but it was not a chaotic flash. It was a symbol of justice. The Romans believed that if someone lied under oath, Jupiter would sooner or later strike him, not necessarily with lightning, sometimes with fate. His epithets, Optimus Maximus, that is, the best and the greatest, were not an exaggeration. He was a god before whom even other gods bowed. He did not descend to the earth. The earth rose to him. His wife, Juno, the goddess of the state and marriage, formed an ideal pair with him as the two pillars of the Roman system, power and order, and their daughter Minerva, the third element, reason. Thus rose the sacred trio, Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva, as the heavenly government. As the archetype of eternal Roman power, these three had a common temple. But it was Jupiter who was in the center. Emperors in their triumphal processions entered his temple, sacrificed white bulls, and left the symbols of the conquered peoples at its foot. For only he had the power to approve or reject victory. Jupiter was not just the god of war or the sky. He was the judge in all matters. When Rome was divided, when fire burned part of the city, when barbarians came, the people first of all asked, "Isn't Jupiter angry?" And if he was angry, there was no hope. For when Jupiter is silent, there is still time. But when he thunders, it is too late. He did not demand worship for its own sake. He demanded order, for in his world, evil is not punished immediately, but punishment always comes. And this made Jupiter not just a god, but the principle of eternal government, in which truth, law, and power are one. Jupiter is Rome raised to the sky. And as long as thunder sounds in the sky, the Roman idea of justice and power is alive. These five gods were not just characters in myths. They were the embodiment of the very spirit of Rome, unshakable, profound, intelligent, formidable, and majestic. Each of them held something more than a weapon or a symbol in their hands. They held the foundations of the world order, on which one of the most powerful civilizations in human history was built for millennia. Minerva, the mind that conquers the sword. Apollo, the light that heals and punishes. Neptune, the chaos of waters that forms empires. Pluto, the silent depth where eternity lives. Jupiter, the law of heaven that thunders when the truth is violated. They still speak to us through architecture, through the names of the planets, through the principles of justice and thinking. Their images live in films, books, music, symbols of states, in the depths of our culture. If this video helped you to understand the essence of Roman mythology, its power and relevance more deeply, support us by subscribing. This motivates us to create even more meaningful, high-quality content about history, myths, and ancient knowledge. And don't forget to press the bell, because soon we will go into even deeper labyrinths of ancient legends. Thank you for watching, and see you in the new video.